for many people, it's hard to think about the future when you spend all of your time fighting to get through the week.
People require difficult decisions, but they're ones that this government are prepared to make because we know the importance of economic and fiscal stability.
Return of the Sausages. No, that's not a new blockbuster movie title. It's actually a bizarre blunder from Keir Starmer's recent speech. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. But beyond this gaffe lies a more serious issue. How does this slip-up reflect Starmer's disconnect from the pressing issues facing Britain today? Keir Starmer's New Year speech painted a rosy picture of Britain's economic future under Labour. He promised a new era of growth, prosperity, and opportunity for all. But as we dig into the details, the gap between Starmer's grand vision and economic reality becomes glaringly apparent. Starmer's key pledges included boosting economic growth, tackling the cost of living crisis, and creating well-paid jobs across the country. He spoke of a decade of national renewal and vowed to make Britain the fastest-growing economy in the G7.
Not possible to turn around more than a decade of poor economic growth and stagnant living standards in just a few months.
So I want to be clear. Until you can look forward and believe in the promise and the prosperity of Britain again, then this government will fight for you.
Impressive promises, no doubt. But how do they stack up against the cold, hard facts? Recent economic data paints a far less optimistic picture. The UK economy has been struggling with stagnation, with GDP growth rates remaining stubbornly low. Inflation continues to be a pressing issue, eating away at people's purchasing power and savings. These stark realities raise serious questions about the feasibility of Starmer's ambitious growth plans. Economic experts have expressed skepticism about Starmer's strategy. Without significant tax reforms or increased public spending, his promises may be little more than wishful thinking given the current economic climate. The Institute for Fiscal Studies has pointed out that Labour needs to secure £6 billion, £7 billion just to prevent public sector workers from falling further behind. This financial challenge alone casts doubt on Starmer's ability to deliver on his broader economic promises. As we examine Starmer's proposals more closely, a troubling pattern emerges. His optimistic rhetoric about economic renewal seems increasingly disconnected from the harsh realities facing British households and businesses. Many voters remain skeptical, reflecting a broader disillusionment with political promises and a growing desire for tangible results rather than lofty aspirations. The gap between Starmer's economic vision and the current state of affairs is widening by the day. His promises of rapid growth and prosperity seem increasingly out of touch with the struggles of ordinary Britons.
A fight for change that will define this year, next year, and indeed every waking hour of this government.
Have done the responsible thing with this budget, and we've taken key decisions, made key choices. We've chosen to protect working people, and therefore...
As inflation continues to bite and economic uncertainty looms, Starmer's grand economic illusions are starting to crumble under scrutiny. But here's the kicker. These economic inconsistencies might just be the tip of the iceberg. As we'll see, Starmer's questionable grasp on economic realities extends to other crucial policy areas, raising even more doubts about Labour's readiness to govern effectively. If you thought Starmer's economic plans were ambitious, wait until you hear about his immigration and energy proposals. With over 36,000 migrants crossing the Channel in 2024 alone, how does Labour plan to square its promises with reality? The answer might surprise you, and it's not what voters were expecting. Remember Starmer's sausages gaffe? It's more than just a slip of the tongue. It's a perfect metaphor for the confusion surrounding Labour's key policies. Starmer's stated positions on immigration and energy are riddled with contradictions, leaving even his supporters scratching their heads. On immigration, Starmer promises to reduce numbers while simultaneously boosting economic growth.
You're seeing it around the world. It is unlocking investment around the world. I want those jobs. I want that investment in Britain. And with Labour, we will.
We have a clear plan for change. 1.5 million new homes, restoring the dream of home ownership.
But how exactly does he plan to achieve this balancing act? Critics argue that his proposals lack crucial details, especially regarding the fate of migrants already in the UK and the management of asylum accommodation. With 23,242 people crossing the Channel in just the second half of 2024, Starmer's optimistic approach seems increasingly out of touch with reality. The energy conundrum is equally perplexing. Starmer talks about creating a more secure energy system, but his plans face significant hurdles. How can Labour balance economic growth with environmental sustainability? And what about addressing public concerns over rising energy costs? These questions remain unanswered, fueling skepticism about Labour's readiness to tackle complex policy challenges. These issues aren't isolated incidents. They reflect a broader problem in Labour's approach. There's a growing sense that the party is unprepared for the complexities of governing. Public opinion is divided, with 56% of voters believing Brexit has harmed the economy. This complicates Starmer's strategy as he tries to navigate the tricky waters of immigration control and economic growth.
Children starting school ready to learn. A more secure energy system.
The compensation schemes that they did not fund, and their failure to assess the scale of the challenges facing our public services.
The impact of these muddled policies could be far-reaching. Businesses are left uncertain about future labour markets and energy costs. Working-class voters, once Labour's core support, might feel alienated by policies that seem disconnected from their daily struggles. Meanwhile, environmental activists question Labour's commitment to meaningful climate action. As we examine these policy inconsistencies, a troubling question emerges. Is Labour truly ready to govern? With each contradictory statement and vague proposal, doubts grow about the party's ability to tackle Britain's most pressing challenges. The gap between Starmer's confident rhetoric and the complex realities of immigration and energy policy is widening, leaving voters to wonder what other surprises might be in store. As we've seen, Keir Starmer's New Year speech and policies are riddled with inconsistencies.
The pensions reforms, the creation of a national wealth fund, this government are getting on with the job in improving economic growth and driving up living standards.
Immigration reduced. Neighbourhood police tackling antisocial behaviour in every community. And more cash in your pocket.
From grand economic promises that clash with stark realities to muddled stances on immigration and energy, Labour's vision seems increasingly disconnected from the challenges facing Britain. The return of the sausages gaffe, while amusing, symbolises a deeper problem, a potential disconnect from the pressing issues that matter to ordinary people. This begs a crucial question. What does this mean for the UK's political landscape? With public trust already fragile, can voters afford to take political promises at face value? The mixed reaction to Starmer's speech, from mockery to genuine concern, suggests a growing skepticism among the electorate. It's clear that we need a more critical approach to political rhetoric. As voters, we must demand clarity, consistency, and concrete plans from our leaders. The days of accepting lofty promises without scrutiny are over. Only by holding politicians accountable for their words and actions can we hope to bridge the widening gap between political ambitions and the realities of everyday life in Britain.